All right, David, the recording has started, so go ahead and kick us off.
Great, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us today on this Workload Automation Tech Talk. So this is the second Tech Talk in a series that we're hosting every other week. And today we're going to talk about getting started with Workload Automation Hadoop, Advanced Integration for Hadoop, for AutoSys, for AE. And we have on the line today Justin Hubbard, who's from our product management team, who will walk us through some slides and also give us a short demo here. I encourage everyone to ask questions via the WebEx Q&A portion, and we'll take questions. Likely, depending on how the session goes, we'll see if the questions will be answered throughout the presentation or if we just hold them at the end, depending on how many come in. All of these Tech Talks are hosted on a landing page, and Justin will show that at the end here with links to not only that landing page, but other resources for you to learn about this integration and some further education. So thank you all for joining us today, and with that, I will turn it over to Justin. Justin?
Hey everyone, my name is Justin Hubbard. I'm with the Workload Automation SWAT team, and we'll just dig right in. We got a short amount of time, so let's go over the Hadoop Advanced Integration for AutoSys. So we're going to cover three big items before getting, including the AE demonstration. We're going to go over some of the challenges of using Hadoop in your enterprise with Workload. We'll then go into the Hadoop Advanced Integration implementation. And then finally, we'll actually go ahead, I'll present my screen, and we'll demonstrate the defining some of the features and utilizing some of the features within WCC. Your big challenge today with using Hadoop with Workload is that you have to manage end-to-end business processes. You have multiple scheduling engines, you have multiple teams, multiple silos, and application users all using different things, different third-party products such as SAP, Oracle, Informatica. You've got all of these workloads currently managed today by Workload Automation AE. However, you're unable to incorporate these with Hadoop as of now. This is where Hadoop Advanced Integration comes in. It allows for you and your Hadoop teams to get together and manage your workloads from end to end and in one product with one overall viewpoint. Setting up Hadoop Advanced Integration is pretty simple. We have to start our scheduling engine, which in this case is Workload Automation at AE, which would be set up to talk to one of the system agents with Hadoop Advanced Integration installed. The Hadoop Advanced Integration installation is pretty simple. There's a setup file that you would run. You point it at the installation directory for your system agent, and it will finish up copying all of the binaries across, and then it's similar to a plugin from there. With the Hadoop Advanced Integration, you define a connection profile, which you'll see done during the demonstration. This connection profile specifies what edge node to connect to from the system agent in order to then execute Hadoop workload within your Hadoop cluster. As you can see on the screen, today we currently support Cloudera and Hortonworks distributions, and we also are currently in the process of certifying MapR and IBM Big Insights. So with that, we'll go right ahead and dig into the demonstration for DE. Len, do I have to let you share my screen, or?
No, Justin, you just have to go up to the top, right next to File and Edit. You'll see Share, and then you can do Share My Screen.
All right.
And it's working now, so I can see your screen now.
Okay, I'm just bringing over. So here we can see that I'm on the WCC dashboard page. And the first step that we mentioned with utilizing Hadoop Advanced Integration is that we have to define a connection profile. The connection profile is going to define what edge node within our Hadoop cluster we're going to be connecting to, as well as for some of our other job types, connections to external databases, the UZ server. We'll cover all of that as we go through our definition. So let's go ahead and go to Quick Edit. And I'll go into the drop-down and select Connection Profile. And we'll go ahead And this will be the connection profile that we're using for today's demonstration. We can see that I've defined my connection profile name and I've given it a description. And the first field that we have specified is a host. And this is technically the only required field. I'll cover the other fields and their importance in a moment. The host field is going to be the edge node of the Hadoop cluster that we are connecting to. This will be the actual, from the agent SSH connection to this edge node. This will also be the, where for HDFS jobs, you should have your any type of files located if you're doing any copies or moves from your edge node up into HDFS. You can then specify your port for your connection, which by default is 22, as well as your Hadoop bin directory path if it's not the default. We can then specify the name node. In my case, the edge node that I'm connecting to is also the name node of the Hadoop cluster. However, you could specify a different edge node to connect to, but you would still need to then specify the name node if that is the case. If we want to run Oozie workloads, we do have to provide the Oozie server URL, which I've specified here. And if we are going to be connecting to Hive, we have to specify our Hive JDBC string. And if we're going to be connecting to any external relational databases for import into Hadoop, we need to specify our scoop JDBC string. If this is, depending on your driver, you may also have to specify your main driver class for these JDBC drivers. So we've defined our connection profile. We can now begin to define Hadoop workload. So let's go back, and I'll bring up this view, and we'll take a look at the jobs that we've defined for this demonstration. This use case here is, in particular, a retail use case. So to start, we've got some business data that we want to import into Hadoop. So we're going to use Scoop to import some business data. Specifically, this data contains business IDs and business areas. And we've got sales data from the past couple of years that's going to be aggregated by ID. We're then using an Oozie workflow and a pig script to aggregate this data together and group it by total number of sales per year per business area. And then we're exporting this data in two ways. First, we're creating a table within Hive within Hadoop so that this data can be viewed, the result of the pig scripts can be viewed through Hive. And we're exporting the sales data back out into a separate external relational database. And then to show that we can now integrate this workload with our other workload, I do have a script which is representing an Informatica job to continue on into our regular business flows. So let's go ahead and we'll take a peek first at the HDFS jobs that we have. So within our HDFS job, we do have your normal fields that you would expect, your description, the machine you're going to be connecting to, your conditions, resources, applications groups, whatever you need that you would expect from a normal job. And then first here, we're specifying the owner. This owner is going to be the user that we use to connect to the Hadoop Edge node. I've specified this through AutoSys Secure. You can now, with AutoSys Secure, if you're not familiar, as of 11.3.6 SP3, you can specify within AutoSys Secure both a username and password for connection, but you can also now specify a key file path or key string instead of having to specify the password. So this can all be done through the new AutoSys Secure menus. Next, we can see that I specified my connection profile. And we have a file operations here. So for my file operations, I have 5 options within HDFS. I can either choose to do a touch within HDFS within a specific path, copy files to or from the local edge node specified in my connection profile into or from the Hadoop distributed file system, or I can copy in between directories within the Hadoop distributed file system. I can make a directory within the Hadoop distributed file system, or like copy, I can move within HDFS or move from or to local on HDFS. Lastly, we can remove the file or directory within HDFS. So I've specified the source files I'm going to copy, and there's two sets of sales data that we're going to copy, two CSV files for our scripts to later on execute. And we can go ahead using the binoculars here and explore the edge node file system if it wants to work. There it is. So we can see that this is the edge node file system, and I've gone through and it's navigated all the way down to the directory specified in my source files, but I can navigate throughout my edge node and specify that these are the files that I'm copying from my local edge node up into HDFS. And for my destination, we can scan the Hadoop distributed file system as well. It's just taking a second. So now this is the Hadoop distributed file system side, and we can scan that as well. And we'll be placing this in our POC user directory. Depending on your file operation, you're going to have different options. For example, from copy from local, we can preserve our file status or override our existing files. If we're going to be making directory, we can include, for example, to create parent directories. So there'll be several different options. Lastly, we have, for all of our Hadoop job types, we have our job status refresh option. This is how often the Hadoop Advanced Integration Agent is going to be connecting to the edge node specified in the connection profile to check on the status of the current job. By default, it's 60. This is a relatively quick demo, so I've dropped that down to 5 seconds. We take a look at our scoop job. Let's do this actually in edit. In Scoop, we once again do have to specify our owner, which is the same owner, because this is going to be the user that we're using to connect to our edge node. We have to specify our connection profile, but then we have an additional user, which here is going to be the user that I'm connecting to the database. Now, these users, this Postgres at sched2 is defined within AutoSys Secure as well. So I've defined this as a password user within AutoSys Secure. I've selected import. We also have the option to export, and I'm going to be importing the business table and the following columns from the business table. I'm going to jump ahead to export because I do want to make a note where we're exporting our sales data. We're using the same database and we're connecting as the same user. However, I've added this additional parameters key. And this additional parameters key allows you to take advantage of some of the additional capabilities of the Hadoop command line. So in this case, there's a command line parameter called update key, which instead of attempting to insert the data into the table I specify when I export, it will then try to update based off of the primary key, which I specified as ID. So if there's any additional parameters that you would like to specify that could be from your command line, you can specify here and they will be executed as well. If we take a look at our Oozie workflow, Oozie is the scheduler that's provided with Hadoop, and it does have quite a bit of functionality. However, what we have done here is given the ability for you to specify to trigger Oozie workflows. So all you have to do is on your Hadoop edge node, specify your path, your properties file for your Hadoop workflow, and you can trigger and control your Oozie workflows. What's nice about using Oozie and supporting Oozie is the fact that, one, your Hadoop teams don't need to break out Oozie scripts that they've already created. They can just define the Oozie workflow script properties file, and you can control your Oozie workflow from Workload Automation AE. Additionally, any additional functionalities that you want to be able to control and view from Workload Automation AE, such as Spark jobs, you can. And in this case, what this Oozie workflow is actually doing is executing a Spark job on the Hadoop side. And then lastly, we have our pig script. And our pig script here, not lastly, we have one more after this. We're specifying, again, our connection profile. We're specifying our connection user, Unlike Scoop and Hive, we don't need to specify a third user, so we're just specifying our connection user to the edge node. And then we specify the path to the script to execute. Pig jobs also have the ability to specify parameter files, which is essentially a file filled with variables for the pig script to execute, as well as property files, which are configuration parameters to be executed at runtime. So you can specify these parameters and property files if your pig script requires them. And then finally, we have our Hive job. So we can specify the Hive scripts within to execute within Workload Automation AE. We have to specify our connecting user, so our POC user 1. We have to specify our connection profile once again, and we have to specify our Hive user. This is similar to the Scoop user. It's the user that we're going to be using to connect to the Hive database. We have an initialization script if necessary. You can define an initialization script for Hive, and then our script to actually execute, which will be creating this table to view our data from the results of the pig script. We then have a set of options for Hive variables and configuration parameters. I don't have any configuration parameters to define for this particular script. They're not necessary. The defaults are fine. However, I do have 2 Hive variables that I'm going to be using. I'm defining my table name, which is retail demo, and I'm defining the source path for the data, which we can see here. So in my script, the actual where these would be located, there is a variable slot for source path and table name. So you can specify those. You can pass those variables from Workload Automation AE to your Hive script. So we'll go ahead and execute this workload. And get started. So we can see that the 2 jobs have started here, HDFS and our Scoop job, and they'll move right into our UZI workflow. They're currently retrieving data from the HDFS job is copying once again from the local edge node up into HDFS, and it is completed. And the Scoop job is importing data from an external table. It does take a second, some of these jobs. I did restrict my refresh time to 5 to 10 seconds for each of these. They are relatively short running, but we're not going to have to wait here for 60 seconds per job. And now we've just moved into our UZI workflow. We can see with UZI, we have the ability not just to trigger the workflow and let it run to completion, but we also have the ability to suspend the workload if necessary or resume it. I'm going to let this run through, but you do have the ability to control these workflows from UZI. If we go ahead and actually open our UZI job, we can see that our state is running. We can actually go ahead and retrieve the spool file. And we can actually see the ongoing state information outputted from Hadoop on the UZI workflow or with any of the other jobs as necessary. We've now moved on to the pig script, which will be finishing off the aggregation and the grouping of this data. And this is going to actually be the longest running part of the job. So what I would like to do is for the last just 10 minutes of the demonstration, I'm going to, well, 5 minutes because I want to leave room for questions as well. I'm just going to go over to, I'm going to bring up another window here, which will show the Hadoop distributed file system. If that's me. So here we are within the actual view of HDFS through the web UI hue. And we can actually go in to our POC user 1 data set, and we can see if I, just 1 second, we can see that our 2 CSV files that were copied into POC user 1, they have been copied successfully. If we look at our business directory, which is where we were importing our scoop data to, we can see all of our splits. Now with scoop, oops, not what I wanted, there we go. You have the additional options to specify a where clause, which works the same as a SQL where clause in any query to limit the data that you import. And then you have the option to specify a boundary query. A boundary query is essentially what will define Scoop's ability to split data for import. By default, it selects the min and max of your data set based off of your primary key. However, if this data set is uneven, you may have other boundary queries to utilize depending on your data set to make that more efficient. Additionally, you can specify the number of boundary splits, for example, using your additional parameters option within your command line interface. So for example here, you can type -m2, which will make the number of splits equal to 2. So you have a wide variety of options for all of your job sets by utilizing these additional parameters. The last 2 items that I didn't mention for the Scoop jobs are your null string interpretation, which is essentially just a string representation of what's for null strings or non-string nulls, what you want to, as a placeholder, hold them at as your data set within HDFS. This ensures that there is continuity with nulls between Hive and Scoop and other scripts that may be written, as long as they're all using the same replacement value for your null string interpretation. And we can see that our exports has completed. We can actually go in and see some of the data from the table that was created within Hive. We'll just grab a sample. And we can see that we have our business ID, the total number of sales per year, listed by year, and the name of the business service. There are nulls in this data set. It's actually meant to represent the script is accounted to be able to handle that if some of our data sets have a business ID, but the data that we imported does not have a business associated with that ID, it can still associate and finish executing for the rest of the business areas. So we can see here that our workflow is completed for our end user, and our Informatica job is just completed as well. So with that, that completes the demonstration and just some simple job types to be defined by Hadoop Advanced Integration with Workload Automation AE. David, I'll push it back to you, and we'll go ahead and start answering questions.
Perfect. Why don't you, if you could stop sharing your screen, we'll go back to the presentation. And just go to the next slide.
All right.
So if anyone has a question, please submit it via the chat on the right. As a follow-up to the presentation and demo that Justin just did, we wanted to make sure that you had some resources to direct any additional learnings, or if you have any additional questions, you can go to our webpage, which is on here. There's also some technical documentation for you to access and find more information about this advanced integration. We also have a series of tech talks coming up, and there's a landing page in the workload automation community. There's a link for that. A couple of heads ups on events coming up. Our next tech talk, similar presentation and demo, but for the D-series engine. We know that some customers have multiple CA workload automation engines. So if you're interested in that, that's coming up on March 8th. Lastly, there is a workload automation AE engine and UI training on March 9th. Both of these are coming up fairly shortly as well. So If there's any, we'll hold on for one more minute here. Any questions, please put them in the chat. Okay, so no questions have come through. Finally, there's a poll that is now up on the WebEx from Len, our community leader here. Please rate the quality of today's webcast. I actually do see a question coming in. Hold on.
Do we have generic usage workflow, which would help for schedulers, admins, so it's easy to transform? So what we currently support is the ability to execute UZI workflows, which is an existing UZI workflow that's defined. So you can you can execute and run an existing workload within UZI. So you can do either. So you can, the question is, can we execute workloads, or do we have to define new workloads for Hadoop with Pig, Hive, and UZI jobs? We can go ahead and execute UZI workloads that are already predefined, or you can go ahead and manually create your workflows within Workload Automation AE using Pig, Hive, HDFS jobs, Scoop jobs, any of those 4 options.
Great. Any other questions?
So I see the comment that you can, it would be great if you can create some use cases for this or a use case document. What we'll do is go ahead and we'll go ahead and pass that on to the Hadoop AI product management team and see if they would be able to provide something along those lines in the documentation.
So Justin, another question came in UZI, polling in HDFS is inefficient. How can we overcome this?
So what we can do here, I'm not sure who answered that question. I don't see it coming up on my screen.
It's on the chat.
The focus from this Tech Talks perspective is on Workload Automation AE. Within the configuration of Hadoop from, so for example, UZI polling of HDFS, if this customer would like to contact us and we can set up a meeting to discuss that, we can go ahead and do so. I just want to make sure that the focus stays on Workload Automation AE for this Tech Talk. So
and we will
go ahead.
Yeah, Justin, I'll make sure that that's documented and we can follow up. I believe the name is, I can't pronounce it, but Tamil Puli.
Okay, that question there came up on my side, Dave, so just send me the information for that and we'll move forward with that afterwards.
Perfect.
The question of does the Hadoop AI agent support the Apache Spark? It does not natively. However, as I mentioned, one of the benefits of supporting UZI workflows is if you're using a workflow that is executing something that we don't natively support, such as Apache Spark, we can monitor and execute those workflows. An option here, if Apache Spark, if there's functionality that you would like natively within as a native job type within Workload Automation AE, the best place to put your ideas would be on the ideas section of the Workload Automation community.
Great. Any other questions?
I'm not seeing anything else either, Dave.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Justin, for your time today. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Justin's contact information is here. I believe you'll be able to see the replay and access, additional information via the community. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.